very good evening to everyone here. I am Rini, and on behalf of India Fintech Forum, I welcome you all to the online session on streamlining collections with automation, increasing the efficiency and productivity. This webinar is supported by Unifor. So before we proceed, we have a few points for our online attendees. You can enter your name and post your question in the Ask a Question panel. We will take up the questions towards the end of the session. There'll be a very quick survey, but interesting thing is that we will have a lucky participant who can win worth rupees 3,000. And this webinar will be recorded and it will be published on India Fintech Forum's YouTube channel. It is my pleasure to introduce the speakers and moderator for the day. So a very warm welcome to Ms. Harshni Sridhar. She's the head of business India at Unifor. Mr. Deepak Sharma, he's the president and chief digital officer at Kotak Mahindra Bank. Mr. Manavjeet Singh, CEO and MD at Collections. Mr. Anand Agarwal, co-founder and CPTO at Credgenics. Mr. Akshay Mehrotra, member at FACE, co-founder and CEO at Five. And the moderator for our discussion will be Ms. Reema Vadhwani. She is the Director Marketing APAC at Unifor. So with that, I now invite Ms. Harshni Sridhar to give the keynote and take the conversation forward.
Hang on. Thank you so much, Rini, and hi everyone. Thank you for making time. And I was under the impression that it's Friday, and I was about to say thank you for making time on almost a weekend. That goes to show how packed my week has been. So, but anyway, thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share screens and see if I can get that to work first. All right. Rini, if you can just confirm that the screen is visible.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, hi everyone. My name is Harshni, and I joined Unifor about a couple of years ago, but I literally took on my role as the head of the India business like 2 days ago. So I'm still coming up to speed with everything that's happening in the region, and this is a great way, and I'm super excited to be talking to you all today. So I come purely from a customer experience background, right? I always say that I have 3 big passions in life: customer experience, Manchester United, and filter coffee, in that order, right? So I saw the panelists and some of the people attending today, the who's who of CX. So I'm really excited to be speaking to you guys today. And and I won't take up too much time in talking about who Unifor is. I'm not going to take time doing anything that you can ask ChatGPT about, right? So I will run through this. And what I really want to spend time doing today is helping you guys understand from a conversational AI standpoint, how do we interface with the collection space, right? That's exactly what I want to do. But just as a very, very quick 30-second intro about Unifor. So we were a company, we were incubated out of IIT Madras about 15 years ago now. And we started off, as a point solution for contact centers in tier 2, tier 3 cities way back when. But since then, I think over the last 7-8 years, we've pivoted completely into a speech-first conversational AI company, right? And I know I'm dropping a lot of terms here, and I hope to demystify some of them as we go along. As of today, I think we're valued at just north of $2.5 billion. So we raised our last round of funding just over a year ago. John Chambers, who is, as I like to say, a very big voice in the voice tech space, sits on a board. And I think India for us has been one of our key, not one of our key, it has been the key market for us. So we have offices in 4 cities across India and 6 more across the globe, right? So if I were to talk a little bit about what Unifor does, and then I will spend the rest of the 10 minutes I have really talking only about how we help in the collection space, right? So Unifor as a platform like I said, we are always speech first, and most of our solutions are focused on the agent side, right? So from left to right here, we have three specific products which comprise our U suite. So the first one is U self-serve. This is very, very simple, right? This is your voice bot. If I were to oversimplify this, is what we call it intelligent virtual agents, but this is really about voice bots. This is about visual IVR. Like I said, we are speech first. So although we do have some chatbots here and there, and we will continue doing that, but I think our focus will remain in the speech space, right? But really, what I want to spend a little bit more time on is the other two pieces, which is the assist and analyze. Let's take you analyze first because it's easier to explain. So like I said, I come from the CX space, right? And, I used to work for this company called CloudCherry, and we were in the voice of the customer space. And if I were to get a 5% response rate on a survey that we are sending out to any customer, that day I would break open a bottle of champagne or filter coffee in my case, because for 5% response rate was considered phenomenal. And then when I joined Uniphore, I learned, from you analyze, the first thing the founder Ravi told me was, you want to analyze 5% of your customer conversations. How about all 100%? And right. And that's essentially what you analyze does. So it is a post facto historical conversation analytics tool. So whether it is speech, voice, text, whatever it is, across all the different channels, feeds into the YouAnalyze platform. And we'll talk a little bit more about how it interfaces with collections, but it is essentially into speech analytics, right? Or conversational analytics. The last one is my personal favorite of the three products that we have, which is YouAssist. This is the real-time agent assist solution, right? So what this does is, think of it like a co-pilot for a contact center agent. So as the agent is on the call, the AI also joins the call, and it's going to listen to everything that the agent is saying and what the customer is saying both. Now, you want to ask me why do you need to listen to that, right? It's essentially about making an agent, a super agent, because it's going to give the agent everything he or she needs during the call, whether it's next best action, guided workflows, whether it is, think of it this way. How amazing it would be if we can eliminate the agent saying, can I put you on hold while I go fetch this information? We all hate it. We are all irritated by it. And that's the problem, at least one of the problems YouAssist looks to solve, because what it does is it looks at the agent. It's going to listen to the conversation, crawl through your knowledge base, crawl through your FAQs, look at all the historical data you have, and provide the agent with next best action and guided workflows. What it also does post the call is any promises that the agent makes, it's going to ensure that those promises are fulfilled by interfacing with your CRM, your process automation solution, or whatnot. It also automates all the post-call work, which is call categorization, call summarization, understanding the sentiment of the call. All of that is done in real time. So we have the self-service, which is the voice bot, visual IVR. We have the real-time agent assist, and then we have the final one, which is the historical analytics. But for me, I don't think our value proposition actually lies in any one of those independently, right? And, we recently acquired two companies, one called Redbox, which is which is into voice recording, and the other one called Hexagon, which is into behavioral AI, right? Now, we can keep innovating through acquisitions or building out some of these products. But for me, I need to wrap it all up into one platform that I'm offering the customers, so that when any of you are using the platform, it needs to be like a Lego, right? So, for example, if I start with YouAnalyze, which is looking at data that you already have, right? I can go into any of you and start YouAnalyze in the next 10 minutes, literally, right? Start analyzing the data that you already have. Once I start understanding what are the different intents of calls coming in, how are your agents performing, what's your customer experience like, I can use that to ensure that your self-service is more optimized. Hey, these 5 intents can actually be done by a bot, so let's go ahead and build out that self-service. I can also look to see, where your agents are struggling or floundering a little bit, if you will, and ensure that the real-time agent assist is working hand in hand with your agents to solve these problems, right? So that is why these three products are sort of encompassed in a box, which we call the X platform. This houses everything from, our IP, like our ASR, which is our speech recognition, our language processing, our tonal analysis. All of this is housed within this one platform, which means each of these separate products starts learning from one another, right? That's the power of the platform, if you will. And of course, I know there will be questions around generative AI, and I'm happy to take that at the end or in a one-on-one conversation, as well as to how we are using these things. Like, I was at our sales kickoff last month, and the first thing our CTO said was Transformers. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, Megan Fox. But apparently that is a technology which we are using, which is into the generative AI phase, right? So all of this technology is housed within our X platform, and on top of these three products are there. But what I really want to focus the next 5 or so minutes on is on how does this work from a collection standpoint, right? So now, if I were to take the entire collections process, whether it's early stage, to mid stage to late stage. So we all know this. I'm not going to preach to the choir here and talk about what are the different processes within the collections life cycle, if you will. But what we need to be really, really careful about is where is where does AI fit into this life cycle? For example, I can never have a bot do a late stage collection. It doesn't make any sense, right? I cannot have a bot call when the customer is already a T plus 10 days of, after the due date, right? It doesn't make sense. However, if I'm sending a T minus 15 reminder to a customer that, hey, your payment date is approaching, I most certainly can use a bot there. Similarly, when I'm talking about analytics of the call that has happened, I need to start thinking about where within the life cycle, what are the KPIs, what insights am I going to derive, right? And so let's really talk a little bit about that, right? So we spoke about the three products that are there, assist, analyze, and self-serve. So let's start with conversational analytics, right? For example, we work with a bunch of collections firms, and one of the things we want to work with them on identifying is look at historic data and start looking at things like propensity to pay. Now, if I were to again demystify some of that, if I want to look, okay, I'll give this to you as an example, right? So yesterday, I think we were playing poker at my house. I have a 12-year-old son who told me, whoa, that is sick. Now, my default reaction when somebody says that is sick is, what's wrong with you? Shall we go to the doctor? But in his Gen Alpha, I think, parlance, that is sick means that is amazing, right? So now think of the thousands of conversations agents are having with very, very different customers. It is very hard for an agent himself or herself to be objective, to be able to determine from the tone of the customer to what the customer is saying, how accurate their information is, right? And that's where You Analyze comes in. You Analyze looks at all this data and starts identifying things like, hey, is there really financial hardship from what this customer is saying? If there is there something that we could have done differently to ensure that this customer pays? For example, if the customer speaks about, I got laid off, is the agent showing enough empathy to that customer at that stage, or is he still just focused on getting the money and getting off the call? These kind of emotional tone and analytics, is there a resistance to pay? And that's one of the key things that I wanted to also highlight, right? How do you get an agent alone to be able to identify if the customer is resistant to pay? This is really where the You Analyze piece comes into play, which is the historical data analytics. Now let's talk about real time. One thing is, so when the agent is on the call, let's say the AI also starts listening in. First thing it's going to do is it's going to act as a collections coach. So we have something, so we built out specific bespoke models, if you will, for each of these scenarios. And one of the things is a collections coach, where the AI exactly knows what are the different steps or things or keywords, if you will, that the agent needs to use to elicit a collection from a customer, right? So depending on why that customer is delinquent, like I said, financial hardship, resistance to pay, I got laid off, I have health issues. For each of these scenarios, the AI can guide the agent on what to say. Let's take the simple scenario, right? Like, let's say the customer says, hey, I got laid off, but I can make a partial payment today. Now, typically, the agent will have to say, hang on, let me put you on hold. I'll have to go fetch my supervisor, or I have to look through my knowledge base. Instead of that, if the AI is able to help the customer, the agent solve this then and there, that's one of the things, right? And like I said, it also does everything from a compliance standpoint. Is the agent saying the things he or she is supposed to ensure that they're saying? It will give out prompts, and it automates all the post-call work, which is primarily focused on reduction in average handle time, reduction in errors, and all of that. I won't harp too much on it. The last part is the self-service part. Now, self-service in collections is tricky. I'm going to give it to you because we need to nail the balance between where we want to go human first and where we want to go AI first.
Just sorry for interrupting, but if you could just wind up in another minute so that we can start.
Yeah. This is the last thing we have, Rini. Yeah. So self-service, I think the most critical thing, like I said, is the T-15, T-10 reminders that are going out to a customer. Those things can be completely automated, right? Where you have a bot call the customer. Now, when the customer says, okay, I'm ready to pay, you don't need to transfer it to an agent. We have a visual IVR solution wherein a link can be sent out to the customer while the customer is on the call. They can click on it and go through this payment process, right? So this is how a conversational AI platform can sort of wrap itself around around a collections journey, whether it is from historical analysis to real-time agent collections coach to finally using self-serve wherever you don't need to be human first. So this is what I wanted to leave you guys with. It's perfect timing because it was the last thing that I wanted to leave you with. Happy to take any questions at the end, and I'm looking forward to the panel that's coming up as well. So thank you, Rini. Back to you.
Thank you, Harshini. That was wonderful, amazing keynote. And now we have this panel discussion, which explores the potential of automation, conversational AI, and AI-driven insights in revolutionizing the collection process. Now, to start with, we'll go ahead with the first point is how we all know that conversational AI can add value in the fintech space. So, Mr. Akshay, maybe we can start with you. How important do you think it is to contextualize the technology as per the market?
I have to.
I request all
hi.
the speakers to put your camera on and put yourself on.
Sorry, Rima, may I request if you repeat your question, then we'll get started off.
Yeah. Not an issue. So the question is actually about, we know that conversational AI can add value in the fintech space. How important do you think it is to contextualize the technology as per the market standards?
So, Rima, I think as lenders and direct lenders, very important that we really understand how we're going to use our collection practices to become smarter. When you run business at scale, you have to choose between how do you bring in technology to bring in efficiency, and how technology will help you do that business in a much smarter manner. If I look at today, my business, I have at least 500,000 active customer base, which means at any given point, I need to go and have collections capability maintained for at least 50,000 people out of that. And now, either I can decide to have a 800-member pre-sales call center who will keep calling up people every time there's a bounce happening, or I'll really build in smarter collection scorecards, better technology-driven systems. I think in the introduction, we heard about can there be a voice assisted NLP running with the customer so that we can predict is he going to pay, not going to pay, assess the telecaller, etc. Or you can fully automate that function to say the AI will only call, the AI will only decision, the AI will say he pay or not pay. I think players like us will have to get far more aggressive to say we will use technology and embrace technology in a much sharper manner. Let's give an example. I think a year back, we had to call up 100% of our customers first time in case there's a bounce happening. Today, we may only call up 25% of them. The rest the AI will do. So between voice bots and assisted NLP-based voice bots, we're able to minimize the effort to collect. Also, at the same time, we're able to build efficiency. Right? And I think that is what is the game changer. Can you have enough things coming in to manage OpEx efficiency? Can you have enough so that the business as a scale, we're in a unique situation as a company. We have grown maybe 7 times over the last 18 months, right? We were focused on having more technology, which meant that we will not hire people, right? We are just 620 people. We do more loans than most banks in the country. We are one of the top 2 largest fintechs in the country. And yet we have maybe from our, let's say, players who are near our numbers have 1/5 the manpower to them. I think we embrace technology the most to manage every line function, and that's what gives results better to us.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Akshay. That was wonderful. I think we'll get back. I think we also have, we'll discuss with you later in terms of use cases, what use cases you implemented, because you're already there in the game. From customer experience perspective, I think Harshni touched upon this topic from the viewpoint of customer experience. What have been the areas that you see as your business priorities now in upcoming days? Mr. Manavjeet, can you throw some light on customer experience perspective here? I would. Mr. Manavjeet? Or Mr. Manavjeet, you're not audible. Am I? Hello? I think you're on mute, is it?
We can hear you. We can't hear Mr. Manavjeet.
Yeah, I think he's on mute. Okay, Mr. Manavjeet, we can't hear you, but in the meantime, we can hear from Mr. Deepak Sharma. Mr. Deepak Sharma handles us from Kotak Bank, who handles the digital priorities. So, Mr. Deepak, what have been the areas that you see as your business priorities now and in the coming days?
Yeah, hi. So I presume your question, what I heard, Manavjeet, is the same question, that it's in context to customer experience, right?
Yeah.
So I think every organization, including ours, we're becoming more and more customer-centric to what we do, be it in terms of product experiences, the journeys, interactions. Some part, I think, got spoken by previous speakers, be it in terms of how do we personalize and contextualize what we offer. But considering this panel is more around collections, what I would say is that we all, when we lend with the intent of collecting. You never lend if you can't collect. So to that extent, banks understand probably this a lot better, because we all realize that the return of capital is more important than the return on capital. And that means that it's pretty easy to be a great underwriting, disbursement, origination experience from customer lens. But how do you continue the same customer centricity and experience when it comes on to collection? And that's where I think consistently we find that lenders drop the ball, irrespective of whatever we say on customer experience, because when you have a customer not paying or not paying in time, then can you still say, oh, I'm customer centric and I'll be okay if customers are not paying? It doesn't happen. I think that's a fact. If somebody is denying it, then I think we can have a separate side conversation. So I think keeping that in mind, the way we look at it is there are two clear analysis that comes in. One is customers' ability to pay versus intent to pay. Uh, I think customers with ability and no intent needs a very, very different level of handling than customers with right intent, but the ability for the time being, either like I heard, whether I don't have funds now or I can pay part funds, can I pay it a week later? Can you break my EMI? All those kind of stuff, right? So there it may lead to deferment, restructuring, penalization, etc. But you still know that the customer has all the right intent to pay. So I think that when we are building and looking at a more intelligent collection system, but still keeping customer at the center of it, I think analyzing the intent becomes a very important part. I think mostly we all have solved the automation part of it well.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, the customer centricity still needs to go further and solve better is understanding the early intent of customers. For example, I have funds, but I'm not paying. Now, some of that stuff today would be possible through the consent and account aggregator, because you will be able to look at whether the funds are available in customers' named accounts and you still have funds, or what is the end use of loan that customer has taken. Was it used for the purpose for which customer borrowed? So I think as we understand some of those data and insights deeper and better, we can continue to remain customer-centric, but still be effective in collection. And that's how I see that these two are getting more closely interlinked at the collection end, where you need a right balance between the right outcomes for the firm, but at the same time being fair and nice to customers.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Good point. Mr. Manavjeet, are you there?
Yes, please. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. Yeah.
So on this, the customer experience perspective, so I have a thought like every customer wants to be treated as an individual, not just a number, right? So that's where I think there are a few aspects where I feel like, for example, personalization, speed and efficiency, and transparency. These three aspects where AI can play a very, very important role, especially in the collection process. So like, for example, when digital debt collection company, us, what we are doing is based on the past payment history, financial situation, communication preferences. That's where we can use AI and try to personalize for keeping the customer in mind. Because for us, when we are dealing with a particular company, it's not a customer ID or number. It's just an individual who's out there with a certain preferences. So that's one aspect. And second one is the speed and efficiency, which is, I think, is a very, very important part. That's where AI can help in automating many tasks, like related to debt collection, essentially. Maybe it's like a sending of reminder notices to negotiating maybe the payment plans and all that. And this can free up the human agent to focus on more complex cases, for example. And third part is like, which I think is very, very important, is transparency. That the customer wants always the status of their account very, very transparently. And I think these three aspects I personally feel AI can play a very, very important role in the whole collection or debt collection process.
Thank you, Manavjeet. This was insightful. So, coming back to Mr. Deepak and Mr. Manavjeet spoke about in terms of collections and customer experience. So, in fintech space sector, collections play a very crucial role, directly impacting the top line, especially when it involves fast-moving, low-ticket size products with higher risk. And here, investing in AI technology becomes very, very crucial, which addresses a challenge of cost, conversion, and also predicting P2P conversion. Now, when we're looking into the top line, let's look into how bottom lines are something every organization prioritizes on. How does conversational AI boost your bottom line business? So, Mr. Akshay, if you can throw some light, if you can give your views on this.
So if I can.
Sorry, I got this. Sorry, Manav, you want to take this question and come in later?
Yeah, please.
All right. So I was mentioning that Five as a platform completely switched off its 2.0 version and launched 3.0, which is completely based on a concept of conversational UI. It end-to-end integrates to make sure that we have a unique custom UI and custom product line for every customer who interacts with us. As the build keeps improving, like any tech-based company, every month the new build comes out. I think we'll have multilingual, we have multiple product, we'll have differential pricing, differential journey, differential treatment for consumers for the front end piece. Then comes the middleware piece. How do you manage customers using conversational UIs or what you call as automated AI bots? 73% of any customer management platform, which is chatbot, email bots, etc., and IVR bots, already have taken control of customer communication, which means that there is no human behind 73% of the time our response comes. It gives us scale. For example, we just have a 57-member support services team to manage 2 million new customers hitting our platform every month at the back end. So it's a great amount of way of managing customers. And the third comes in, how do you build an efficiency, which is repeat rates as well as systems to manage recovery. And both of these systems then get managed with scorecards and a concept where you're doing NLP on conversations to figure out how you can manage customers at scale. So I think what fintechs are doing is how do you manage large scale operations? You're disbursing 750 crores a month, you're doing 1 lakh plus loans a month. At the same time, you're managing recovery from 5-6 lakh customers a month, you're managing active loans of large volumes, and you're able to manage large customer grievances also without having large human science systems behind it. So the AI-based systems allow us to run business at scale.
Thank you, Akshay, Mr. Akshay, for that. Mr. Anand, what do you think? How does conversational AI boost companies' bottom line? But when it comes to fintech, it obviously collection per efficiency ratio, PPA, profit per account. But what about the business bottom line? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, hi, Rima. Thank you for asking this question. We are a collections based platform, and that's what we kind of do all day and day out. In lending, especially, there are a couple of levers which everybody looks at: is the interest rate, the collections, and then the spread based on the cost of capital. So if you look at all of that, collections do become like one of the significant portion where all of the bottom line could be kind of change just because you're not efficient at collections and you do not have any control on the costs of collections. So ideally, most of the lenders do kind of put a special focus on how their collection processes and try to optimize their costs in terms of how much of investment is going on. In terms of conversational AI, that's been, I think, there for a while. It's not a kind of technology which has come very recently. It's been there for quite some time now, where chatbots, voice bots, many different kind of ways to interact with the borrower are kind of automated by machines, automated using machine learning and AI-driven models. They try kind of eliminating the human resources or the human aspect of it, which helps in kind of reducing the cost per collection, or you can say it like the cost per loan account collections, which they might be kind of executing. And they also increase the efficiency and the productivity at the same time, which is by kind of, if you were able to do, let's assume, an 8-hour shift by these agents in a day, there is only so number of accounts could be handled by humans and not maybe like many more accounts which can be answered in real time. While the conversational AI driven bots would be able to enable you to kind of handle these cases in parallel rather than limited by the number of human resources. At the same time, it would not be limited to 8 hours, rather 24 or all day and day out. The answers could be kind of given back, or the interactions can be happening with the borrowers. Third aspect is it could reduce the manual errors, mistakes, which generally tend to happen when you deal at scale. When there are too many accounts to handle and you're kind of very fast paced because of the limitation of number of people, and the account per people is getting handled is kind of on a higher side. There is tendency of mistakes to happen in that, which gets eliminated by, again, a lot of these bots kind of handling these conversation, trying to interact with the borrower, take down their kind of issues, and maybe if those are complex issues, routed to a particular agent. So there is a filtered version of these conversations which reaches these agents, rather than all of the conversations which are answered by the kind of agents there. So I think obviously the kind of optimization happens using these bots and many more models there in terms of the cost effectiveness.
This is an excellent point. Maybe we'll touch upon cost per collection later in few minutes. Mr. Manavjeet, we wanted to hear your viewpoint also on this, please.
Yes, on the cost of collection, I personally, it adds a lot of value. AI adds a lot of value, like as a company like ours, when we work with our clients. So we have seen, like, for example, AI helps in identifying and prioritizing the high risk accounts. That's, who's most likely to default in terms of ticket sizes, in terms of, so there is definitely a direct impact on the bottom line. It helps big time. Automation of tasks is, again, like, simple things as sending out notices and all. A whole lot of times we have seen it's having a huge impact on, like, some of our large clients we work for, where we have implemented certain processes. It definitely impacts from 15 to 20% in terms of, pure bottom line impact is there. So AI definitely helps in certain aspects. Specifically, I've realized in prioritization of identifying and these high risk accounts. There we have seen fairly good amount of success in that. It definitely. And third is, I think it's providing insights. So when you have the insights related to customer behavior and preferences, that again it ultimately results into the saving part, because you are not generally groping in the dark, but you are specifically focused on something, and its end of the day results in savings. So AI definitely helps in these 2-3 aspects where we have practically seen for some of the large clients, and have used savings for them using that.
Thank you, Mr. Manavjeet. I think it was excellent in terms of insights. And now coming back, we'll speak a little bit on data and analytics. I would like to give you a quick example, a very compelling example of how Uniphore helped one of the MNCs based out of this MNC bank, actually, in the APAC region. So the bank was actually facing a significant challenge in the reconciliation process, and which was obviously mainly due to manual checking of interactions and providing, identifying errors. What Uniphore did is, by implementing Uniphore, the bank was actually able to complete reconciliation with significant reduction in effort. And what resulted is over 55% in saving, which obviously streamline their operations and reduction in the opportunity cost. Having said that, Mr. Agarwal, what do you think? What do you think? What are your views on what is the importance of data and analytics in the fintech space? What role does conversational AI play in uncovering the hidden data and insights?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Rima. So if you have to look at how does it help and how does it kind of uncover insights, one, it's humanly not possible to kind of make sense of large amounts of data. And today, I think it's data all around. When any of the platform interacts with their borrowers, they try kind of gauging and saving all of these data points, touch base points in their data warehouses, the data lake. From drawing an inference of those data, what is kind of the data pattern saying about a customer behavior, or maybe is the pattern for a particular group or a segment of customers indicating something. It's not humanly possible to do it maybe on Excel files or something which is like normally done by humans. That is where conversational AI comes in, where the models would kind of help you try to learn over these data by putting that data set as the training data set. And then if there is any customer who would be either similar to those customers, or even customers who may be kind of having some of those variables or some of those features very similar to other set of these borrowers, it draws an inference that this customer's behavior will be similar to the customer's behavior which was used for training that particular model. And it enables the kind of lender to do a couple of more things which humanly again, so for example, there is in identifying who is intent to pay is on let's assume an example, a customer A versus a customer B. Which customer has a higher intent to pay? Let's try to prioritize that particular customer over customer B in terms of contacting that customer or sending a payment link, trying to solve it through digital mode versus a manual mode. I think those kind of solutions quite kind of become easier. Second is trying to kind of uncover some sort of frauds or some sort of indicative anomalies in the data set itself. The third maybe could be when there are conversational chats which is happening with the borrowers or calls being kind of done with the borrowers. There's a lot of sentiments which gets analyzed over the calls and over these conversations, which helps you identify whether again the customer is a high risky customer or a low risk customer, and based on that again you could take appropriate actions, which enables you to kind of even do a lot of optimizations on effectiveness of your strategies or maybe cost optimizations. So obviously there is a lot which conversational AI has been enabling these lenders to do, and kind of collection approaches to become much more efficient in its own productivity.
Yeah, excellent, Mr. Anand. And we did speak about a few minutes back on cost per collections, which again, I'll move this to you because cost of collection becomes very critical in consumer loans. And how do you think AI-driven automation and insights play in reducing cost per collections, which is again a very important metric? And cost per collection is again cost per collection or maybe profit per account, which is very crucial, which are very crucial metrics in the collection space. So what do you think, how do you think AI-driven automation play a role in reducing cost per collections?
I think Rima, it's pretty much the same what I talked, but yeah, I would kind of just reiterate it. When you say cost per collection, it is all the amount and the money invested to collect that back. That's basically the definition of cost of collections. What all activities would you be able to kind of execute, or what would be kind of significantly kind of creating an impact on the borrower to make that payment happen is the strategies which you opt. Now, if you look at traditional ways of doing collections, it would be blanket solutions, which these maybe agencies and the lenders would use to kind of collect from their borrowers by sending maybe a similar set of template via SMS, then maybe through email, then maybe a WhatsApp chatbot, and then a manual call and FOS. There is no filtered version of what customers fall in what segment. Maybe the segment could be, hey, there is a categorization between the scores of intent to pay, and then you try communicating with those different segments of borrowers with different approaches of collections. You could say, hey, my 20% of the customers kind of seem out to be self-cure customers. Only if by sending a digital communication with a payment link would kind of get me the collections from them. There is no requirement and need of calling that customer. Similarly, there could be customers who may be filtered for having like a very low intent to pay, and a high risk customer would directly flow into maybe a manual call being triggered to them, and then the agents are interacting on a one-to-one basis with these borrowers, which enables you to save the cost on the communication. On the other hand, it enables you to save the cost on the maybe a caller calling the call, maybe connecting with the borrower over a call, or maybe someone going physically visiting a borrower and then collecting cash from them. So especially when it comes to consumer loans, the ticket sizes are quite small. The cost of collection becomes quite significantly important for them to look at. And they need to be strategic enough in terms of what approaches they need to take in terms of collecting that money back from their borrowers.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Anand. Mr. Manavjeet, would love to hear your point as well, point of view on the role of cost per collection. How critical is it in the consumer loans? I think Mr. Manoj, I think he's not there. Maybe if anybody else can pick up this question, or maybe we can move this question.
Maybe we'll take some of the
questions
which have come on the chat. That would be nice.
Yeah. Can't see the chat.
There's a question by Apoorv. How do we handle languages by users? So Apoorv, we've been building the capability of predicting language for consumer. Here we run science where we say location plus location plus let's say demographics of the customer and declared data. Can we predict the next language? Can we populate if the customer wants to start conversation in that language? We also see if he's ever touched base in any of the language where first response was better on that. The next time you call, you get routed to similar caller or the collection deficiency based on the similar caller. So language is a decipher, which says that can you have some history of the customer looking at his application data, and where does he trigger the next line of communication to populate the next language?
Hey, Rima, sorry, was there a question for me? Your voice was breaking up. I do not know. I've sort of heard my name, and there is one question in the chat that is related to that.
Yeah, we thought we'll take the question later, but
Sure.
okay, one question where we can have some. No, that was no. So just give us a few minutes, and then we can pass it on to the Q&A section. Would that be okay? I think we were talking about collection and the propensity to pay. I think in collection cases, tracking the percentage of customer who actually provide P2P and promise to pay and ultimately fulfills the promise is very, very important and very crucial, which manual data management does not do at all. Conversational AI, like automation or like Unifor, offers a solution by automating data capture, providing real-time access to accurate information, assist agent in real-time conversation, which ultimately leads to efficiency and effectiveness of collection effort. Now, Mr. Deepak, if you can throw some light on collection propensity and the distribution of consumer loan across buckets, which is one of the most derivative insight for consumer loan. How and where do you see AI-based conversational insight adding value here?
See, the conversation insights, again, I'm going back to, I think there is AI-based insights impact right now a lot more across the process of origination to managing to early warning, but especially since we are talking communication, AI, and collections. This is more about like some of the previous speakers spoke about. Where do you optimally utilize the human versus the machine? How intelligently bases the language and the intent do you rework on your collection scripts? Also, there are now the set of models that we've been seeing where depending on the way customer responds, you start scoring that customer response model to build a scoring of intent and propensity. So you don't need to necessarily wait for it to go into a 30 or a 60-day bucket. But even, for example, if there are a set of notifications and alerts being sent to customer, today these are all one way, but I think mostly now we are seeing a lot of these are also becoming interactive in nature. So you start taking each of these cues or signals that originates between the customer and the lender to see whether how serious is customer about, for example, ensuring that the bureau score does not get impacted. Now, that is a big intent stuff because there are people who will, moment they know that certain kind of nudges or conversation can lead them to act in a different manner, then you start scoring each of your conversational nudges, depending on whether they are soft conversation nudges, and they are all AI generated. These are not the human ones. And then each of those starts to see whether that creates the desired impact. That also starts to build over a period of time, especially when we are managing this in a longer cycle, for example, a credit card, right? It's not about just giving one small loan for a limited time and then seeing that, because those are not the long-term collection and continuous underwriting models. So for a continuous underwriting and collection and a life cycle management, we have seen some of these starts to work better because it creates a kind of a profile score for customer. And that profile score for customer goes back into feeding as to what kind of nudges or communication or notification or that one needs to build. And as we are moving more and more now into the multilingual space, because that's again becomes a pretty important stuff as to how you train some of these models, both the voice and chat and text based, which can be highly effective in getting the desired outcomes without necessarily the intervention. We're also seeing that how the human conversation with customers are getting used as a training data to train the conversational AI models. Because as each of the conversation gets scored, for example, where you need to be a little tough, where you are polite, where you are pleading, so each of these, what we call it is the emotion and sentiment analysis. So that starts to get again another parameter that gets involved. So I think it's becoming more of mirroring like what a humans would do, but in a more intelligent manner through the AI and the conversation.
Excellent. This is an excellent point, Mr. Deepak. Mr. Manavjeet, if you could give your viewpoint on this one, that would be wonderful in terms of distribution of consumer across buckets. I think he's on mute, but in the meantime, Mr. Akshay, I know you're already up in the game, and then you also have a use cases around this. Would be wonderful if you can share your some insights or data points around this.
I think there are two important elements as everyone gets their act together. Remember, it will be a parity space available of what type of tools you can use to bring efficiencies in your business. It's like when we started 8 years back, it's alternate data, few people will have. Eventually, 4 years back, everyone had the same access to data. Today, it's really about how much do you believe in those efficiency projects and can they kick in your business earlier to bring a differentiation? The second is, are you able to carve out the right action calls from those data? For example, let's say image recognition system today helps you identify fraud and customer recognition systems better. But do you really want to build strong automation use cases so that you can minimize your OpEx and resultant business models can get created? So I would recommend that anyone, even if it's traditional in Outlook today, there are a lot happening. Start embracing those tools, systems, and opportunities faster, because the catch up is not too difficult. It's no more disproportionate cost to use adoption of those. It's the belief which is more important, that I can run business in a better manner to cause business results. So those two parts go as a balancing act. And I would like to last part carve out is there is a lot more to be done. I think AI in true format has just started to show its true results. I'm sure many of you have started using ChatGPT and some other systems coming in for developers, apart from giving indicative examples to us. But the world is moving to faster development time, which means that almost everyone can code complex things which earlier only very big companies could afford.
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be the next big change, that you'll start, everyone will access to better tech capabilities very fast.
Yeah, which we already are. Everybody's have a better tech capability. Mr. Manavjeet Singh, if you were you there, maybe because you're not audible. Okay, we have 5 more minutes, but we want to move to a Q&A session. Thank you all. Thank you to all the speakers and all the participants for attending this webinar. And now let's move on to our Q&A session. We have a couple of questions. I think we would like to address those. There are around 7 to 8.
So I think Mr. Manavjeet is, he was facing some technical issues. He will be joining in. So meanwhile, we have a very quick 2-minute survey while, we allow the other participants to unmute and raise their hands and ask the question. So we'll just take a very short, 2-minute time to fill up a survey which will appear on your screen. Malika, can we have the polls, please? And please remember, we have one lucky winner who will be getting a gift voucher of worth 3,000 for this. We'll not take much of the time, and we will come back to the Q&A session with all our speakers. Okay. Malika, I would also request you to give access to everybody to, unmute themselves and ask their questions to the panel speakers.
Yes, Rini, everyone has the access now to unmute and start the
Great,
video.
great. And we've got very exciting questions from our online attendees as well. So maybe, we can start. So we've talked about ChatGPT. But if somebody would like to address Roshan's questions around how are you using LLMS or ChatGPT type of tools to automate collections? So I'll keep it open for all our speakers.
So I let me try to take a stab at it, Rini, if you're okay with that, because we are doing some exciting work in this space. Now, when you talk about ChatGPT, right, for ChatGPT to work, it needs to have data, right? It's trained on some data, and then you go ask question about that data, and then it gives back. Like, nobody's going to go to ChatGPT and put in a question like, nobody's going to come on to a collections agency and put in a question like, hey, when is this flight going to land? It doesn't work like that. So what we are actually using to build our platform is the building blocks of generative AI, which is stuff like what is called transformer technology, which is exactly what you said about LLMs, right? Which is stuff like BARD. So the building blocks of generative AI has actually been in use in conversational AI platform. I'm not saying just like Uniphore, stuff like Uniphore for a long time now. ChatGPT is more like the interface that has come in on top of those generative AI platforms. I just wanted to bring that up. So,
Great. I would also like the other speakers to chime in if there are, any thoughts you would want to share. Okay. So let's move on to the other one. We've already talked about, the conversational AI in the next few years. So Sumit, we've taken your question. So we'll take this one where I think all the speakers can, probably spend a few minutes. How much headcount in percentage can a bank or fintech reduce in collection department using these tools?
Yeah, I can start. There is no thumb rule to it in terms of how much it can kind of reduce. But obviously, in terms of how effective, it all also depends on to whom you're lending, how you're lending, all of that, because that's the starting point, top of the funnel. Because the number of accounts which will flow down in terms of collections or to the delinquent buckets would totally depend on how your underwriting processes or how your lending are. And if there is maybe X number of accounts, we generally see in the first bucket, about 70% of those accounts could get digitally resolved, where there is no requirement of a human resource or there is no requirement of a person to kind of handle a one-to-one conversation with the borrowers. While it can be handled by all sorts of kind of bots, which we enable like voice bot and WhatsApp bot.
Mr. Deepak Sharma, would you like to comment on the bank data? I mean,
Yeah, so right now, I think this is not as much about headcount reduction. This is more about bringing in a better collection efficiency, because if you use the mix of what you do as process, normal one, and then like typically the co-pilot, you use this the AI layer to enrich the whole learning, it definitely drives a better efficiency. And in collection, like I mentioned in the beginning, your actual profits lies in the last few installments of the loan. So it's not that you start making money on your first EMI. I mean, if it's a 36-month kind of a loan, let me tell you, your profits are last 3 or last 4 EMIs. First 33 or 32, you are just recovering your principal. So to that extent, even if you see a lift of a few percentage point, it's a significant value. So when we are looking at these technologies, I would say that it's not seen necessarily in the lens of cost reduction, at least at this juncture, but it's seen significantly as efficiency to improve collections. If you are at 96, 97, if you can move up to 98, that itself is a huge value to the bottom line. The second is this is helping at least the banks go down a few notches from the kind of ticket size banks were comfortable underwriting. Because I do know when you are a startup, you are more prepared even for a small ticket loan, but banks are very reluctant going down below a certain threshold. And especially with us, with the likes of 811, when we had launched, we also see a lot of customers who are at the mass plus. India is a credit hungry country and it will continue to remain so. So to that extent, if we have to build a viable model of access to credit, it needs tools like these for collections. You just cannot go and do the traditional model of collection for a 20,000 rupee, 30,000 rupee loan because that model is just not viable. So I think today the conversations are more about efficiency and ability to create new markets, which does not exist for a lot of banks.
Okay, so thank you so much. So we have Purvi's question, who is asking how will account aggregators change the collection process? So would any one of you would like to pitch on that?
AAs are less about collections practices. It's more about access to, let's say, banking data in a more seamless structure, right? And also reduces friction and, let's say, getting regular information from the consumer at a more easier manner. So as more data flows, it automatically results better in collections efficiency, right? And let's say some of the PSUs and some of the larger banks where customers to find it difficult to share a digital statement, the AA access is giving more access to data. That's resulting in far more seamless capability. Knowledge level goes up for the lender, etc., so that he can build more collections efficiency.
Yeah, yes. Just to add, I think it's more of the early warning which the lender gets from kind of analyzing the data, especially when it is account aggregator. I think Deepak also kind of pointed out in the start that the data, if you know that the customer has and the ability to pay is there, but the intent is not, is more of that bracket which is concerning. And I think this kind of tries to solve that particular bracket if there is a regular check on such customers.
Thank you. I think we've talked about most of the questions, around languages and the future of it. If you could probably talk about whether the conversational analytics also do a quality audit of the collection agents and maybe give them a score as well. I think this is one of the other pain points that people are trying to address.
Okay, I'll take that, Annie. So yes, absolutely right. First of all, languages and more importantly, dialects.
Before that, sorry, Harshni, I'm just cutting. So thank you, Mr. Deepak Sharma. He has to sign off now. So it was lovely hosting you here.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So like I was saying, dialects.
I'll also log out. I have another meeting starting, right? Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Akshay Mehrotra.
So dialects and a mix of languages, especially we have English, Tanglish and all of that, right? The AI should 100% be able to seamlessly understand when people switch through those languages. That is number one. And I think the second one was on the agent quality bit from a collection standpoint. Yes, So agent performance has to be analyzed both from a compliance standpoint and from a what exactly are they saying? Are they able to empathize with the customer? And I laid out a few scenarios at the beginning: financial hardship, health. Depending on that, is the agent changing what he's saying? All of that can be analyzed using the conversational analytics platform. There are dashboards you can build out and you can slice and dice the data to understand this. So not sure who asked that question, but I'm happy to reach out to you to explain that more.
Okay. So thank you so much. I think we've a lot of questions coming in, but we are on the top of the hour. And thank you, Mr. Anand Agarwal. He is also dropping off. He has another meeting. So we come to the end of this session. I thank all my speakers, Mr. Deepak Sharma, Mr. Anand Agarwal, Mr. Akshay Mehrotra, Ms. Harshni Sridhar, Mr. Manavjeet Singh, and Ms. Rima Vadvani. Thank you so much for taking your time and making this session so interesting and engaging. I also thank all my online attendees for this active participation and their contribution here. Last and not the least, I would like to thank Unifor for supporting this session. In case you would want to reach out to us, for another webinar or just say hi, do write to us at info@indiafintech.com. And thank you so much for joining and have a great day ahead.